Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Historic Adams Academy on a historic day. Many of you know this was the site of John Hancock's birthplace. And the Adams Academy was a school for boys built at the wishes and will of John Adams. And I think it served for about 20 years before later becoming the home for the Quincy Historical Society. So I want to thank Dr. Ed Fitzgerald and Alexander Elliott for hosting us here today. Jim Edwards is the president of the Historical Society. Thank you as well, Jim. I also want to acknowledge we have some distinguished platform guests that will be speaking, but I want to acknowledge some of my colleagues in government who are here with us. I know I just saw Representative Taki Chan come in. I saw District Attorney Morrissey. I saw the Norfolk County Treasurer Michael Bellotti. I see our Ward 1 Council David McCarthy. Did anybody else poke in? Well, certainly don't want to miss anybody. With that, again, welcome on this great day. As we all know, Quincy is a special place for many, many reasons, with some incredible historical, cultural, architectural assets that we enjoy. Sometimes we probably take for granted. This place is certainly one of those great architectural jewels. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about a new concept, a new idea to create an Adams Presidential Center. We are fortunate to have in the city the presence of the Park Service, which oversees the Adams Old Mansion at Peacefield, the birthplaces. We have the crypts down the street, the final burial place for President John, his wife Abigail, John Quincy, and Louisa Catherine, and the crypts of the United First Parish Church, which was built with money left from John Adams, once again. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the concept, the idea, and where we're going from here. We have some incredible folks that are with us today. Are going to be speaking to you and laying out a little bit of the groundwork. Just by way of background, this has come up kind of casually over the years about why don't we have a presidential library. There are a number of presidential libraries across the country dedicated to the various presidents over time. In many cases, libraries are the repository for presidents' paperwork, documents, and books, etc. Well, we don't have that, nor do we need that here for what we're contemplating for the Adams Presidential Center. And we're in the infant stages, but we view it really as more of a place of engagement, civic engagement, a place to really get some educational experience about the history of our country, but really about the contribution of public service made by the Adamses, and hopefully to inspire generations that with citizenship comes responsibility. And we are a great country today because of that and because of the Adamses and so many families like them. I also want to just acknowledge my predecessor, Bill Phelan. After the last election he and I sparred in, he talked about we should go after the John Adams books. John Adams books collection, which was once housed here, eventually was turned over to the Boston Public Library in the late 1800s. They're not his writings, they were his personal book collection. There's about 3,000 books in that collection. And we are pursuing that, but it's not contingent. This project is not contingent on to have those books. And I think it would be a nice thing to have them, but this is really about establishing a place to create some incredible opportunities, civic engagement, to continue to tell the story of the Adamses and their contributions, but also the story of America. Where we've come, where we're going, and to understand that this history is important. We're going through some crazy times, and it would be a major mistake for this country to dismiss and eliminate some of the history that we're so proud of. We learn from history. The founding fathers, and I would suggest Abigail, founding mother, they were flawed people. They weren't perfect. But when you think about the experiment they created that we enjoy today, it's absolutely remarkable. So I'd like to start off with, we have created a foundation, nonprofit foundation, with 3 charter members. We will build from that. The foundation's role is going to be to raise significant private monies to help build this facility and to oversee the design and construction of this facility as well. And I've asked my good friend, Quincy man, a great patriot, we'll talk about patriots today, General Joe Dunford. He served as the 19th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is the nation's highest ranking military position. And he was also the Commandant of the Marine Corps. And of course, as chairman of the Joint Chiefs, he was responsible for advising presidents on so many issues around the world. General Dunford is a true patriot and a great American. He's going to chair the Adams Center Foundation. General Dunford.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm truly honored to be part of this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, when the mayor asked me to be a part of the nonprofit foundation to support the Adams Presidential Center, I immediately said yes. It was an easy decision for me because I'm very proud of my Quincy roots, and I saw this as an opportunity to give back to the community in a very meaningful way. I'm also enthusiastic about being part of an initiative that will celebrate the freedoms that we enjoy as Americans while reminding us of our responsibilities as citizens. And it seems, and the mayor alluded to this, it seems particularly timely for us to go back to the Adams family right now as we grapple with the challenges of the 21st century. Broadly speaking, the Adams Presidential Center will preserve the history of a truly great American family, promote the concepts of citizenship and selfless public service embodied by John Quincy, Abigail, and Louisa Catherine Adams, and inspire visitors to be engaged citizens in the service of their communities and our nation. And the mayor hit on this theme, and as we talked about, this is really not just about preserving history, it's about inspiring people to do things in their communities today. It's certainly appropriate that the City of Presidents be the central location for educating the public about the contributions of the Adams family. And we envision the center to be a dynamic institution where the history of the Adams family literally comes to life. The center is also going to serve to integrate and complement the other Adams-related historic sites in the area. Because the Adams family story is also the story of the founding of our nation, the center is going to animate the early days of the American experience and our experiment in democracy. And we can envision when people come to the greater Boston area to see all of the historic sites that will be in the area, that the first stop would be the Adams Presidential Center, because it'll be here where they kind of get the context in the background that will make their visits to all of the other sites in the area more meaningful. But while the Adams family is going to look back at our history, the Adams Center, we believe the true value of the center will be its relevance to today and tomorrow. And I think that's one of the themes that you'll hear today is this is about relevance today and tomorrow, not just about preserving history. The Adams family very clearly embodied the very best of the American people, and the center is going to highlight their vision, their commitment to our democracy, their selfless service, and their character. The Adams family knew that democracy is not a spectator sport. They took action and made sacrifices in pursuit of a more perfect union. And visitors to the center ought to walk away with a deep appreciation for the exceptionalism of our nation and the effort to realize the vision of our founding fathers. And perhaps most importantly, the visitor experience at the center will be the foundation for activities and programs that will inspire and prepare future generations for public service. We're also going to look to establish programs to generate the kind of cross-partisan dialogue we need to meet the very real challenges that we face today to our security, to our prosperity, and frankly, to our democracy. And I don't think there can be a better way to preserve the Adams legacy than getting our citizens and our leaders to engage in a productive dialogue that advances our common interests. So once again, thanks, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to participate in a project with such extraordinary potential to contribute to the City of Quincy and to our nation.
Thank you, General. Next up, Catherine Craven. She is the Chief Administrative and Financial Officer of Babson College. She chairs the Board of Education in Massachusetts, K through 12. She's also past Chief Executive Officer of School Building Authority and the UMass Building Authority as well. So Catherine brings great experience in building things. Catherine Craven.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, it's quite an honor to be asked to be part of the founding members of this foundation, along with General Dunford and Congressman Delahunt. My background, not only am I the chair of the Board of Education currently, but having worked on state budgets for 10 years in the House of Representatives, I am keenly aware of the modern-day relevance of John Adams's words in the Massachusetts Constitution. And why do I say this? Well, I'll quote to you from Chapter 5, Section 2 of the Massachusetts Constitution of 1780, written by John Adams, where he says, "Wisdom and knowledge, as well as virtue, is necessary for the preservation of people's rights and liberties. And as these depend on spreading the opportunities and advantages of education in various parts of the country, it shall be the duty of legislatures and magistrates in all future periods of this Commonwealth to cherish the interests of literature and the sciences, especially in public schools and grammar schools." So the relevance of that wording was debated heavily for many, many years. And in 1978, Webby versus Dukakis was filed by a bunch of frustrated parents who said we should have equal opportunity for kids in the Commonwealth. And the 1993 Education Reform Act was passed just after Chief Justice of the Mass Supreme Judicial Court, Paul Liakos, at the time said that the word cherish requires the obligation of Massachusetts citizens under our Constitution to educate children in a free and appropriate public education. So I mention all of this because General Dunford talked about the relevance of the Adamses today. In Massachusetts, we have one of the best performing public school sectors in the country. A lot of that is due to the Education Reform Act of 1993, which hinges upon one word in the Massachusetts Constitution, written 213 years prior. One word, cherish. And so also, one of the things that came out of ed reform is the John and Abigail Adams scholarships. And out of curiosity, a lot of people that I've talked to say, geez, I was a recipient of that great scholarship, but they don't have a home, they don't have a place to go. So one of the ideals, I think, of this foundation will be to cohortize and create a sort of an alumni network of the thousands of students that have received these merit-based scholarships over the past 25 years. So I'm very proud to be here today. I look forward to working with this foundation's board. I thank the mayor for inviting me in, but I also think that there's never a better time to read these words and to heed to them. Thank you.
Before I bring up our next charter member, I did want to acknowledge Joe Shea's county commissioner over here, president of our college, Victor Christopher, Quincy College president, and Marion Peak, who's superintendent of the Adams National Historic Park. With that, I'd like to bring up our next founding member of the foundation, and that is the direct descendant, political descendant of John Quincy Adams, Bill Delahunt, who served as the United States Congressman representing this district for many, many years. Prior to that was a district attorney, state representative, of city councilor. But more than that, Bill understands the importance of history and the relevance of the message of the Adams Presidential Center today. So with that, Bill Delahunt.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oftentimes the mayor suggests that I served contemporaneously with John Quincy Adams, but I want to assure you that's not the case. You know, I share the enthusiasm of the other speakers. This project, in my judgment, is really consequential, not just because it honors the two presidents and their wives who contributed so much to this country, but it's consequential because they lived in a turbulent age, much like we are right now. There are many that feel in this country that we're at a critical moment in terms of our history, where there are erosion of our democratic institutions. Some would even suggest that our democracy is at risk. And we have this opportunity, and I continue to hear the word from the previous speakers, the term engagement. We have to be engaged. And the Adams Presidential Center is a vehicle to enhance that engagement. It's an exciting time. You know, both men, particularly John Adams, and I think it was Ms. Craven that alluded to this, really recognize that for democracy to be successful, there has to be a well-informed and engaged citizenry. And this center can be a piece of that. When, ironically, and again, it was Catherine Craven that mentioned this, it was John Adams, who was the drafter of the Massachusetts Constitution, that incorporated public education in that draft, in that document. And ironically, we're at a time where it would appear to me, and I'm not a professional educator, that we have an appropriate focus on sciences and math. But somehow, what has been relegated is civics and history. It's needed now more than ever. It's needed now more than ever. And I'm confident that we can play a key role, those of us that are engaged, we can play a key role in not only assuring that our democracy survives, but actually prospers. And what better place to do it from here, from the City of Presidents, where in many respects it all began, right here. I'm so excited about this project, I really am. And I really look forward to working with the General, with Catherine, the Mayor, and the Board. And I would be remiss not to congratulate the Mayor for having a vision. How timely is that vision? Mr. Mayor, well done, well done. I just looked over at Adam and he's giving me the hook, otherwise I'd read this at his speech. Thank you very much.
I think those brief remarks was a record for Delahunt. Next up, we're delighted to have with us today Congressman Stephen Lynch, who has been serving in the United States Congress since 2001. Prior to that, he served in the State House as a state representative, a state senator. He's been a great partner and a great friend to Quincy. He chairs a number of committees and subcommittees in Congress. He's got a lot on his plate. He's done a number of traveling, visiting our troops around the world. Just an incredible partner, a great public servant, Congressman Stephen Lynch.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. This really is this project, as many others, are really a wonderful reflection of Tom Koch's love for the city of Quincy and his deep appreciation for the historic capacity here. I also want to thank my colleagues who have agreed to serve on this panel. We are in such good hands, and I just want to thank General Dunford and Bill Delahunt and Captain Craven for bringing their enormous talents and their skill set to this project, and I am sure that we will have a success that is worthy of our mission here. I'm honored to join them in this morning in announcing the creation of the American Presidential Center and Foundation. The American Presidential Center is the culmination of a years-long effort, spearheaded, of course, by our Mayor Tom Koch, to honor the legacies and the lives of Presidents John and Quincy Adams, as well as Abigail and Louisa Catherine Adams and their families. To quote Bill Delahunt, quoting John Adams, John Adams once wrote that liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people who have a right and a desire to know. And I think it is in that same spirit that Mayor Koch and our partners have devised the American Presidential Center and the American Presidential Center Foundation. The American Presidential Foundation and Center will not be a traditional presidential library. Rather, it will be an immersive education center with a strong focus on civic engagement. And in that way, it will not only preserve the legacies of our founders, but it will also bring those legacies to life. And I know that each of the speakers previous to me have alluded to and directly spoken to these times and the challenges that we face, and how this effort, this mission, seeks to address some of that. You know, if this were just a project to honor John Adams and John Quincy Adams and Louisa Adams and Abigail Adams, that would be enough. That would be enough for this project to be deserving of the attention that it will receive and the resources that will be dedicated toward it, both financial and in intellect. But it's more than that. It's more than that. History, in a way, is, and remembering and honoring our history is also a way of reaching back in time to borrow the power of example of our predecessors and in their humanity, in their imperfections, yet recognizing the incredible accomplishments that they have made, and by doing so, by remembering that, I think in a way we raise our own expectations for ourselves. And that legacy, those high standards are maintained. You know, I spent a few weeks ago, I had a chance to go over to Ukraine and visit the troops over there, and I met a lot of General Dunford's colleagues, men who've previously served under him, and when they found out that I represented Quincy, many of them extended their well wishes and kind words on the General's behalf. And I think in a way, they are borrowing from the power of his example that General Dunford proffered during his long term of service to this country. I serve in Congress, and one of my earliest mentors was Bill Delahunt, and I can tell you every day that I benefit from his example. And Catherine Craven, who has done so many of these projects and has really done as much as anyone in making sure that the power of example of our history is evoked today in the institutions, and the education of our young people is carried on. So really there is no better place for such an innovation in memorializing our commanders-in-chief than Quincy, Massachusetts, the city of presidents. So in closing, I want to thank again all the people that have been involved in this project, from General Joseph Dunford and Bill Delahunt and Catherine Craven, and especially our Mayor Tom Koch, for his wonderful loyalty to the city of Quincy and to the memory of those who came from Quincy and contributed so much to our country. May God bless the city of Quincy, and may God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Next up, we have with us the Secretary of State of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Bill Galvin, who also serves as and oversees the state archives, and there's some gems of the state archives, including the Constitution that was written by John Adams. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm delighted and welcome the opportunity to join with you this morning to commend all of you, commend Mayor Koch and this inaugural board. You know, for many years as chairman of the Mass Historical Commission, I've always felt that, though I'm a Bostonian, as most of you know, that Quincy has been rather slighted because we have all these tourists, and one of my other responsibilities is to welcome tourists to the State House and all that. And they all come to Massachusetts rightfully in search of history. And they find their way to all the Boston sites, but they never get to Quincy, when so much history is right here in Quincy. I've tried to remedy that through the years by supporting the Church of the Presidents and making sure it's open for tours. It's really not just unique because it's the resting place of two presidents and their wives. They're rather memorable wives who are American historical figures themselves, but because it's really such an important part of our history. Our legacy in Massachusetts is the history of America, and it's so important that we share that with the rest of the country and indeed the world. And by doing this now, you're advancing not just Quincy's place in that story and the Adams' place in that story, but our collective tale of history and democracy. I was thinking of one thing, though, that I think is particularly appropriate for this moment. John Adams was the first incumbent president to be defeated. His son was the second. And when they were defeated in their quest to reclaim or keep the presidency, neither one of them promoted an insurrection. None of them suggested that they should storm wherever the votes were being counted to make sure it didn't happen. So many years ago, they were ahead of all of us in seeing the importance of the peaceful transfer of power. Even the people they clearly didn't like, or at least at the time John Adams didn't like Jefferson, he came to like him later again. But the reality is they were a marvelous example for us and for our country and for the world. We speak as Americans of how proud we are of the peaceful transfer of power and the significance of elections and democracy. But the people that first tested it out were the Adamses, and they showed us the way. And by memorializing them and advancing their advice and their ideas and educating people about them, you do Massachusetts a great service, you do America a great service, and you do the world a great service. Congratulations and best of luck. Thank you.
Last week, a couple of us from the office had the delight of going over to the Mass Historic Society and enjoying some great items that was put on display for our visit. And we have with us today Catherine Algo. She's the president of the Mass Historic Society. She's a noted historian, an author, and a public history innovator. Previously, she had been director of education at the Huntington Library in San Marino, California, and former professor of history at UC, presidential chair at the University of California, Riverside. She's a renowned author, as I said. Catherine has written extensively about Abigail and Louisa Catherine Adams. Catherine, thank you for being with us. Please come to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here. And I'm here to speak up for history, as we all are today. History is a force for wisdom and understanding. The Adams family of Quincy realized this even as the nation's history was unfolding all around them. As Mayor Tom said, I'm the president of the Massachusetts Historical Society. I also want to give a nod to my board chair, Newcomb Stillwell, who's with me today. And the Historical Society is the home to an unparalleled collection that, among other things, includes about 250,000 manuscript pages from the Adams family. So I am honored to be standing here today to support the Adams Presidential Center. In a letter to her son, John Quincy Adams, from 1780, when he's about 13, Abigail Adams writes, "The habits of a vigorous mind are formed in contending with difficulties. All history will convince you of this. Great necessities call out great virtues. When a mind is raised and animated by scenes that engage the heart, then those qualities which would otherwise lay dormant wake into life and form the character of the hero and the statesman." And of course, John Quincy Adams went on to be a great statesman, continuing the family's commitment to public service. About 100 years after that, his son, who was a third-generation statesman, Charles Francis Adams, notes in the Boston Evening Transcript, From 1765 to 1880, the history of the Adamses is so closely associated with that of the country that those who are not familiar with it cannot be fairly said to understand that of the United States. Okay, he might have been a little prejudiced there, but I agree. Learning about the Adamses is a terrific way to explore American history and timeless and timely themes such as the impact of conflict, the nature of power and leadership, and the ways in which people and communities interact. Thousands of letters. They corresponded with family, friends, and colleagues, discussing daily life and momentous issues, and in doing so, they offer invaluable insights to the political, social, and cultural fabric of American society. History surrounds us, nowhere more so than here in Quincy. A wide range of voices and lived experiences surround us as well. At the MHS, we believe that historical understanding is critical to creating a better world. Learning from our past through curated experiences and primary source materials, such as the Adams Papers, enables us to have a deeper understanding of our nation's history and underscores its significance in our everyday lives. Congratulations to Mayor Koch and the City of Quincy for bringing the gift of history and the Adams family to Massachusetts, the nation, and the world. Thank you.
Next up, we have a direct descendant of the Adams family. We have Brooks Ames with us today. Brooks is a descendant, as I said, and here today representing the family, and he is secretary to the Adams Memorial Society, also an attorney and president of the Brookline Justice League. Brooks.
By some accounts, John Adams took nearly 6 hours to deliver his closing argument to the jury in the Boston Massacre case. His son, John Quincy Adams, argued the Amistad case to the Supreme Court for 7 hours over the course of 2 days. I promise to be briefer. As the mayor said, I'm here as a representative of the Adams family. My namesake and great-great-uncle, Brooks Adams, was the last Adams to live in what we call the Old House, the house John Adams and Abigail bought not far down the road from here in Quincy after the Revolutionary War. I serve as the secretary of the Adams Memorial Society, the organization that donated the Old House to the public 76 years ago. I read the deed of trust yesterday, and the words seem to be relevant to this occasion. The deed states that we are donating the Old House property in part as an educational exhibit and with the purpose of fostering civic virtue and patriotism. That same spirit seems to animate what the City of Quincy, the mayor, and the foundation are doing here with this center. We are pleased the city is honoring the legacy of John Quincy, Abigail, and Louisa Catherine, and protecting and preserving that legacy. Thank you.
During the course of the discussion and up at the office with our team, we said, this is a big deal, we got to get it right. So we did a process, we put an RFP out to get some experts involved in the process to give us guidance so that we do get it right. And there were more than 30 from around the country that responded to that request for proposal. Rich Mahoney, Chris Walker, and some of my staff served on that committee, and they narrowed it down and then interviewed several, and we ended up choosing two remarkable companies that bring great experience and enthusiasm to the project. So first up, I want to have Marcy Goodwin. She's the founder and president of Ed Goodwin Museum Planning, a national leader in planning for museums and cultural organizations. Marcy focuses on museum administration, facility, and site development and building project management. Marcy, thank you for being with us.
Good morning. My name is Marcy Goodwin, and I'm the president of M. Goodwin Museum Planning. And I'd like to offer my thanks and appreciation to Mayor Koch and General Dunford for their enthusiasm for this project and for their commitment to the betterment of the city of Quincy. MGMP is a woman-owned small business with offices in Los Angeles and Albuquerque, New Mexico. In the last 35 years, we've planned more than 150 museums and cultural institutions throughout the United States and abroad, including several right here in Massachusetts, including the Harvard Art Museums and the Mass Art Museum. We're proud, excited, and honored to play a part in helping bring the Adams Presidential Center to life here in Quincy. At MGMP, we have a commitment to enhancing public and historic spaces and to helping communities define themselves through their civic organizations and sites, and to collaborating with our clients to realize their visions. For this project, MGMP will be working with the Mayor and General Dunford's team to develop an organizational, identity, operational, and administrative framework for the Adams Presidential Center. Our planning will encompass an exploration of the center's audiences, its mission, its values, its programs, resources, and staff. It's about the myriad ways that all of these things can and should harmonize to bring the project to life. We'll imbue it with a sense of community and work to create a meaningful and enduring destination for all. The story of the Adams family is the story of the founding and growing pains of our nation. You can't understand the history of America without understanding their stories, and you can't truly understand those stories until you experience them live in Quincy. To that end, we envision this center as an active, dynamic, educational institution rooted in Quincy, but with a national and international impact. It will be a place for new experiences, learning, civic engagement, and community interaction. At MGMP, we often say that museums and presidential centers aren't community centers, but they are centers for the community. The center will be a gathering and social space for Quincy residents, engendering pride in their heritage and providing ongoing relevance to contemporary life through dynamic programs and events. The Adams family are the embodiment of citizenship. As planners for this project, we have a responsibility to align our work with the core values of liberty, equity, representation, and inclusion. These were all championed by the Adams family, and these original principles are basic to Quincy. We humbly begin that journey with you today. Thank you.
And the other partner in that effort is with us today, A.J. Gailey. A.J. is the owner and CEO of Lucy Creative, a museum planning and design firm. She's also the vice president for the Eastern Board of the Themed Entertainment Association, the chair of the board for the Traveling Exhibitions Network within the American Alliance of Museums, and a member of the Women's Presidents Organization. A.J., it's great to have you on the team.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is A.J. Gailey, and I am a founder and CEO of Lucy Creative. We are a women-owned planning and design firm. Our mission is to bring to life the vision of civic, cultural, and corporate organizations around the world. We accomplish our objective by creating interactive exhibits and dynamic spaces. Our organization is both humbled and honored to be included in this incredible team that is building the Adams Presidential Center. For more than a decade, Lucy Creative has led award-winning exhibition design efforts for numerous national, state, and local organizations. Our calling as three-dimensional storytellers is to help develop environments that educate, engage, and inspire visitors of all kinds. The Adams Presidential Center is an opportunity not only for Quincy, but for our nation. The center answers Mayor Koch's recent question: where do we want to be as a community in 2025? Mayor Koch's question really spoke to our team. We contemplated the approach and contribution we could make to bring this new local national treasure here and around all of us. Our years of work on other civic and cultural projects have taught us that collaboration is key. Without collaboration, John Adams and his family would never see their dreams fulfilled, and we stand by the same code of collaboration. Our community of creators are also staunch museum enthusiasts and history buffs. Our team's passion for history sparked a flurry of excitement for this project, and further, many of our team members even have roots here in Boston. As such, they are deeply invested in working together on the creation of our cornerstone for Quincy. The Adams story was a coming-of-age tale of the United States and its Constitution, and the Adams' story reveals the roots that are deeply ingrained, political and social challenges that our country still grapples with today. Further, these stories also give us role models for principled action and selfless public service to face those challenges. So as we bring to life the stories of John Adams and his family and their role in the great American experiment, we can connect history to their actions and inspire the practice of active citizenship today with exhibits and experiences for all types of visitors. So we extend to you, Mayor Koch and General Dunford and the City of Quincy, our heartfelt thanks for this incredible opportunity, the gift to the community and to our nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, AJ. I do want to acknowledge State Representative Bruce Ayers, who has served as chair of the Tourism Committee in the House of Representatives for many years. Maybe you'll find a little money toward this effort, Bruce. I also want to acknowledge the Superintendent of Schools has been in the back there, Kevin Mulvey. We've already engaged with the Quincy Public Schools. As part of the effort going forward, we're now putting together an advisory committee. The Deputy Superintendent, Aaron Perkins, has agreed to serve on that. Marianne Peak has agreed to serve on that. I know Ed Fitzgerald is going to serve on that, as well as a number of other folks from our community. I'm going to be asking Secretary Galvin to appoint somebody to serve on that, Congressman Lynch to serve on that, his designee, as we bring people together to make sure we do get it right. We do want community input. We do want to have that tie, as was mentioned by a number of the speakers, between our kids, our educational institutions, and the center. I do see in the future a great partnership with Quincy College as we continue to grow this idea and this plan. So we're grateful for your presence here today. I want to thank Rich Mahoney and Chris Walker, my chief of staff. They're off to Philadelphia later today. Fortunately, they don't have to go by horseback as John Adams did every time he went to Philadelphia, but they're on the mission with our team to immediately get going to work and see what's out there in other institutions and bring that together. Bob Damon is our Director of Heritage here in the city. Dagny, say hello. I'm Tourism Director. Former Treasurer Tim Cahill with us here today. This is a great effort. This is a great beginning. We're just coming out of the starting gate. There'll be more to come. We'll keep you informed. Thank you so much for joining us here today. God bless.